a special place of beauty and life. A place of history, heritage and heroes. A place for people to enjoy, whether they live here, come from a nearby suburb or the other side of the world. All these terms describe one place, Sydney Olympic Park. Before the arrival of Europeans, these were the traditional lands of the Wan clan, the Wangal, who for thousands of years had enjoyed the abundance of its waterways and woodlands. With the coming of colonists, this irregular headland jutting into the Parramatta River became home to pioneering families. By 1810, most of the land surrounding Homebush Bay was owned by John Blaxland, who established a large estate, Newington, on the Parramatta River, and Darcy Wentworth, who named his estate Homebush, as it was his home in the bush. Over the next 5 decades, early colonial ventures like Blaxland's production of salt sowed the seeds of industrial development in the area. In 1882, the government took over part of Blaxland's Newington estate to store gunpowder and armament, and in the early 1900s, decisions were made that would change the area forever. Firstly, the establishment of the State Abattoir at the site of Wentworth's estate in 1907, and in 1911, the opening of the State Brickworks to overcome the shortage of bricks in the sprawling city. Later, during the 1930s and 40s, chemical factories also became a common sight, producing a range of pesticides such as DDT and oils, paints, pigments and resins. With these major industries, the scene was set for the next 50 years. At its peak, the State Abattoir was the major supplier of meat for domestic and overseas markets. Herds of animals numbering into the thousands would force the closure of Parramatta Road as they made their way to the abattoir. By the late 70s, its fortunes faded, export licences were relinquished, and in 1988, the abattoirs closed. The second great industry, the brickworks, peaked during the post-World War II building boom, but like the abattoirs, by the late 1980s it had slowly died, ceasing operation in 1988. As more land became degraded, the waterways and groundwater also became polluted. But the main destroyer was uncontrolled landfilling when household, commercial and industrial wastes were dumped. Haslam's Creek was reduced to little more than a concrete drain. The diverse and beautiful environment settled by Blaxland and Wentworth had become a blight on the Sydney landscape. The first steps to rehabilitate the area were taken in 1983 with the reconstruction of a 100-hectare wetland ecosystem, Bicentennial Park, opening in 1988, Australia's bicentennial year.
The winner is Sydney.
Then in 1993, Sydney's successful bid for the 2000 Olympic Games fast-tracked the urban renewal, increasing its size and pace, adding a special new component, now known as Sydney Olympic Park. The Olympic Coordination Authority, OCA, was formed in 1995 to oversee the planning, urban development, management and other facilities for the Sydney 2000 Olympic and Paralympic Games. OCA's challenge: to transform a degraded site, a problem area of Sydney, into a major community asset, one of the largest urban developments ever undertaken in Australia. More than 9 million cubic metres of household, commercial and industrial waste were recovered and consolidated on site. Extensive soil sampling was undertaken to confirm the area's safety. Contaminants underwent a specialised treatment procedure, were sealed with clay, covered with topsoils and subjected to stringent maintenance and monitoring programs. More than 8 million trees, shrubs, ground covers and aquatic plants were planted. A pocket of rare Cumberland woodland was also preserved, and 1.4 million cubic metres of waste was removed from Haslam's Creek and new salt marshes created. What followed was the beginning of a construction program to create the buildings at Sydney Olympic Park in light of a rare challenge to address the specialised needs of a single truly enormous event while ensuring each venue could serve multiple uses well beyond the Olympic Games. This task required extraordinary foresight, inspired creativity and innovation. Designs needed to incorporate environmental aspects like energy and water management, green building design and sound ecological management. The result was exemplary, balancing the built and natural environments of an Olympic precinct. Construction of permanent sporting venues was completed 8 months ahead of schedule, a feat unequalled by any previous Olympic host city. And for the first time, all of the 22,000 plus athletes and officials would be housed in the Athletes' Village, today part of the thriving Newington suburb. More than 5.5 million people visited the 2000 Olympic and Paralympic Games held at Sydney Olympic Park. They were the Green Games, setting new standards for the development of urban parklands, sustainability, environmental management and design excellence.
The best games ever in the Olympic history.
In the words of the then International Olympic Committee President Juan Antonio Samaranch. Following the success of the Olympics, Sydney Olympic Park Authority was established in July 2001 to manage the public assets of Sydney Olympic Park to realise its potential to become a major commercial and residential area. Today, Sydney Olympic Park extends across 640 hectares, twice the size of the Sydney Central Business District. The legacy and spirit of the Games live on, offering an unprecedented vision for an Olympic precinct as a sporting venue. As an outstanding residential community enjoying enhanced quality of life. As a major events precinct bringing the best entertainment from around the world. And as a vibrant economic centre where iconic buildings, grand public spaces and a precious natural environment coexist in harmony, nestled within this fast-growing sub-region of Sydney. This is our place. A special place to live, work, learn and play, today and into the future. This is Sydney Olympic Park.